Story 1. Diary of an Affair. The moment I caught my wife cheating with another man. A heartbreaking discovery. Where do I go from here? Part 1. I caught my wife cheating with another man and I am utterly devastated. My wife, 35, and I have been married for 8 years, together for 10. We have been through thick and thin. She is my best friend and the love of my life. We don't have any kids. We wanted them, but it wasn't in the cards for us. Today, during my lunch break, I decided to explore a new area, to try out a different place. As I strolled along the sidewalk, I saw my wife stepping out of a coffee shop across the street with a man I recognized from her work. They were smiling and chatting, and then the man slipped his arm around her waist, pulling her closer, leaned in and kissed her. And she kissed him back. I froze, unable to process what I was seeing. In that moment, everything around me faded into a blur. I stood there, barely believing what I was seeing. This couldn't be happening. I wanted to scream, to run across the street and demand an explanation, but I couldn't move. It was as though I was anchored to the pavement. As they turned to walk away, still caught up in their own world, I realized they didn't even see me. A jarring mix of hurt and betrayal pierced through the shock. I can't wrap my mind around what I saw. I love this woman more than life itself. I have given her all of me. I have loved her unconditionally. I am crushed, gutted. I can't remember how the rest of the day went after that. It was all a blur. I couldn't face going back home to face her, so I told her I needed to stay at a friend's house tonight because he's going through a rough time and could use the support. She bought it. I am sleeping in my car tonight. My world is falling apart, and I don't know what to do now. Part 2. Last night was one of the hardest nights of my life. I spent it in the car, needing space to process everything. A hotel wasn't an option for reasons I've explained elsewhere. Knowing my wife's routine and that she leaves for work before I do, I returned home in the morning after she had already left to shower and change before heading to work myself. Where I'm at mentally, I feel deeply hurt and betrayed. All night, I couldn't stop thinking about the life we've built together and how it now feels destroyed. I've been trying to recall any red flags I might have missed. I'm at a loss because we've always been good at talking through everything. Recently, though, she's been busier at work, which has led to less communication between us, but I didn't see it as a major issue at the time. A few months ago, she mentioned missing the excitement in our relationship. We talked about it and agreed that this is normal in long-term relationships, and we committed to taking steps to bring that spark back. We've followed through, aside from occasional busy periods. I take care of myself, and I think I'm an interesting person and a good husband, so I'm left wondering if she sought excitement elsewhere. That's the only explanation I can come up with, and it makes me incredibly angry. Right now, I'm feeling 80% hurt and 20% angry, but I know the anger will grow in the coming days and weeks. As for the guy, I only know his name, and that he works closely with my wife on a new project. I assume he'll be part of the upcoming work trip too. She's never mentioned him beyond that, and I have no idea if he's married or in a relationship. Here's what I'm planning to do next. 1. I've already spoken to a few divorce lawyers, and while I live in a fault-based location, proving adultery in court can be a long and expensive process. Also, we need to be separated before filing for divorce. 2. Tonight, I plan to go home and act like I don't know anything, which will be difficult, so I can gather more information about the extent of her relationship with this guy. When I confront her, I'll reveal one thing I found out and see if she'll admit the rest. I also want to learn more about the colleague if he has a partner. She deserves to know as well. The challenge here is I'm not sure how to gather more details. Some have suggested getting a PI, but that feels extreme. If anyone has experience with this or other ways to get more information, I'd appreciate your input. I'm also not sure how I'll feel once I know everything. I've always said I wouldn't forgive cheating, but I still love my wife. Maybe once I have all the facts, I'll see things differently and be ready to move forward with separation and divorce. 3. I've opened a new bank account and applied for a new credit card. I've updated HR of the account information to ensure my paycheck is deposited into the new account. Over my dead body, will I let her spend any more of my money on him, if that's what she's been doing? 4. I'm going to use work as an excuse to avoid intimacy with her. Honestly, throwing myself into work and handling these next steps will help keep me from losing my mind. 5. Therapy will come later. For now, it's easier to type this all out than to speak about it. Talking about it aloud would make it too real, and I'm not ready for that yet. I also don't want any friends or family to know about this for now. Speaking with lawyers was different because it felt more practical. 6. I will reach out to my doctor to request the STI tests. A few other points to make. My wife and I don't have typical jobs. We sometimes work at the office, but we also spend a lot of time meeting clients at various locations. So, we spend a lot of time commuting, which means grabbing coffee lunch on the go. We work in a large metropolitan area, and we've never crossed paths during the day until yesterday. It so happened that yesterday, during one of my commutes, I happened to be at a location a little further out, which is why I decided to grab lunch in that area. Some people took issue with my writing style. Writing has always been an outlet for me, and it helps me process my feelings. I will leave it at that. Part 3. I found out everything, and it's worse than I could have imagined. Last night, I checked her phone while she was in the shower. She had left her phone in the bedroom and it was not passcode protected. Maybe she thought I wouldn't check. Maybe she got too comfortable lying to my face. Either way, she made a mistake. I went through her phone and found a separate messaging app to communicate with him. And that's when everything unraveled. Their entire relationship was right there. There were thousands of texts, and even pictures, some lasting well into the night while I was asleep next to her. It wasn't just a fling. This has been going on for months. They've been meeting up regularly. Coffee shops, hotels, client lunches. She's been calling him pet names. There was talk of missed moments, and wishing for more time together. The worst part. She has been telling him things she used to say to me. Word for word. You make me feel alive. The exact phrase she used when we first started dating. That was our thing, and she recycled it for him. I felt physically sick. After years of being together, of building a life, that's how she sees it. Like everything we've built together meant nothing. I also found out the work trip she's going on next week was not just business. They've planned everything, dinners, hotel rooms, more alone time. She's treating this like some kind of romantic getaway with him, while I sit here like a fool. I thought I'd already hit my breaking point. I thought nothing could hurt worse than the betrayal I'd uncovered. But then I found out something that knocked the wind right out of me, like a punch straight to the gut. I booked us a cabin for the weekend 2 months ago. It was an opportunity for us to reconnect, just the two of us. A day before the trip, she said her company needed her to drive to another city for the weekend to meet with clients, that it was urgent and she couldn't get out of it. She was so apologetic, especially because it was 24 hours out and non-refundable. She even promised she'd make it up to me. I remember telling her it was okay, that I understood. I even felt bad for her having to miss out on what I thought would be a special time for us. I didn't take the trip that weekend because I didn't want to go without her, and as annoying as it was, I accepted that the reservation had gone to waste. I found that she had sent the booking confirmation to him and nearly lost it. Then, I saw the photos. Walking by the lake, sitting by the fireplace, wine glasses in hand. The weekend that was supposed to be about us became their little fantasy escape. I can't even describe how that felt. She canceled our trip to take him instead. I realized then the full extent of her betrayal and I lost it. I almost threw her phone across the room, but I didn't because all the evidence was on there. When she finally came out of the shower, I couldn't pretend anymore, and anyways she could tell something was very wrong. So, I confronted her. I asked her if there was something she needed to tell me. She said, no, but I could see the panic set in. I pressed harder, telling her I knew everything. The emails, the lunches, the hotel stays. Her fucking affair. She started crying and apologizing. I asked her why she had done it. She said it was a mistake, that she got caught up in the excitement, that she missed the feeling of something new. I asked if she loved him. She said no, she loved me and wanted to be with me. I asked if she slept with him and she said yes. I told her how much she had destroyed me, how she shattered everything we built. I asked her if she ever thought about what this would do to me, to us. She just sat there, crying and apologizing over and over. I told her I was done, that there was no coming back from this. She begged for forgiveness. I told her to get out, to go be with him since she wanted him so badly. She broke down, insisting she didn't want him, that she wanted me, and she'd do anything to fix this. By then, it was almost midnight, so I told her to sleep in the guest bedroom. She asked for her phone back, but I refused, saying I was holding onto it for now. When she tried to argue, I warned her, if she took the phone from me, I'd leave. She didn't want that, so I kept it. Once I was alone, I forwarded the entire thread of their messages to myself. I went through them in more detail. That's when I found out that the guy is married too. There was no mention of kids though. This morning, we barely acknowledged each other. No words were exchanged. I gave her the phone back, but I made it clear, if she goes on her work trip, she'll come back to an empty house. She promised she wouldn't go. She apologized again, but I wasn't ready to hear it. After she left for work, I broke down. For the first time since this all started, I cried. Edit. I am coming to realize that my marriage is a sham, so this will be my last update on this sub. Tomorrow I will go to the guy's house. I found his address from her Google Maps recent history. I have printed the message thread between them along with the pictures and will be giving them to his wife, who is unaware of what is going on as far as I know. I will also face this man who quite literally destroyed my life. I am done playing nice. Part 4, I told his wife. First thing this morning, I went over to his house. She was home, but he wasn't. It worked out better this way because it gave me a chance to talk to her without him there to deny it. When I told her, at first, she didn't believe me. She kept saying I had the wrong guy. But then I showed her the texts, the photos, everything. I could see the devastation hit her like a ton of bricks. She was completely blindsided. I apologized, told her I wish I didn't have to be the one to tell her, but I thought she had a right to know. She thanked me and I gave her my number in case she wanted to talk or needed anything. They've only been married for a year. No kids. When I got home, my wife was furious with me. Apparently, the wife called her husband and he called mine to tell her what I'd done. My wife was angry, not about the mess she caused, but because I'd outed her affair. I couldn't believe it. She was more worried about her affair partner's reaction than what she had done to me. And then it got worse. This guy, this man who destroyed both of our marriages, had the nerve to come to my house, banging on my door like a lunatic. I opened it, trying to stay calm, but I was fuming. He started yelling, accusing me of ruining his marriage. The sheer audacity. I told him to get off my property, that if he wanted to blame someone, he should look at himself and my wife, not me. He was yelling obscenities at me. I didn't want to get physical with him, so I turned to my wife and said, "You brought this trash into our lives, get him off my front porch," and started to go back inside. She tried to get him to leave, but that's when things took a turn. He grabbed her arm, shoved her, and she fell. At that moment, something snapped inside me. I'm not a violent man, but seeing him put his hands on her, in spite of everything, sent me over the edge. I restrained him, warned him that if he ever set foot near my house or touched my wife again, I'd call the police. He panicked and left. Before I went back inside, I turned to my wife and asked, "This is the man you chose over me? I will never forgive you for the position you've put me in." She just stood there, staring at me in shock. For the first time since this nightmare started, I saw it on her face, like it had finally hit her. The damage, the betrayal, the mess she'd made. She collapsed on the ground, sobbing. I still can't wrap my head around how she destroyed our lives for that guy. I've asked her to leave the house, but she refuses. I can't stand being in her presence, so I'm considering staying at my close friend's place for a while. I am meeting him tonight for a drink to tell him everything. Part 5. Last night, I met up with my best friend for drinks. After reading the advice from many of you suggesting I steer clear of alcohol for now, I decided to drive to avoid the temptation. My wife knew where I was going, and she was concerned about what people in our community might think if they found out what she did, but she also said she was happy I had someone to talk to, since she knew I was hurting deeply. Finally, being able to talk to someone about everything lifted a weight off my shoulders, but at the same time, it felt like the full reality of my situation hit me all over again. It's devastating, really. When I got home, it was late, but she was still awake, watching our wedding video, and I could tell she had been crying. Seeing that set me off. I got angry, asking her why she was even bothering to watch it, accusing her of trying to manipulate me. She said that wasn't her intention, that for months she had felt like she was living in someone else's body, but now she was finally realizing how badly she had messed up. She said she watched the video because she just wanted to see us during a time when we were happy. I told her it's a shame she didn't realize how good we had it, how happy I was with her. I thought she felt the same way. She broke down, saying she had been stupid not to appreciate what she had right in front of her. I'm usually strong-willed, and I don't waver easily, but this whole situation has broken me. And I'm not proud of what happened next. She hugged me, kissed me, and I let her. But just before it went any further, I caught myself. I pulled back and told her this wasn't going to work, that she couldn't possibly believe I could just forgive everything she did. She said she understood but wanted to talk. So, we sat down, and we talked for hours. I asked her why she did it, and she said she had been thinking about that all day. She wasn't sure why exactly, but she admitted she missed the excitement in our relationship. I told her I already knew that. We had talked about it before and agreed to make more of an effort, more date nights, less work. But she said it wasn't enough. She said there were times I'd cancel date nights for work, and that made her feel like an afterthought. I owned up to my part in things but reminded her that none of it justified what she did. She agreed, but she wanted me to know what led her to make those choices. Then, I told her how I found out. She looked shocked, thinking I had only discovered the affair by going through her phone. I told her I saw her kissing him outside the coffee shop. She was floored. I asked how it started. She said it had been going on for months. They worked closely together with a group of people, and he was always friendly, but nothing inappropriate at first. Then, when I'd cancel plans, she'd sometimes join her colleagues at the pub after work. He picked up on it, asking her why I canceled, and it started there. One night after a few drinks, they stayed behind while the others left, and he told her if he were married to her, he'd never cancel a date. They kissed, and she immediately regretted it, and took an Uber home, even though he offered to drop her off. After that, things got more subtle but continued. Eventually, they worked late nights together on a project, and things escalated. I just sat there, listening. I told her I was devastated when I saw that she'd taken him on the trip I had planned for us. She said she was mad at me after an argument we'd had and took the trip with him out of spite. She knows now how messed up that was and wishes she could undo it all. I know I made mistakes too. We both have demanding jobs, and I took some things for granted, but I always tried to make it up to her. She acknowledged that but said she still felt like she wasn't a priority. I asked if she fell in love with him. She swore she didn't, that she just liked the attention he gave her. She wanted to know where my head was at. I told her I was heartbroken, that I never imagined we'd be here. We always communicated, but it turns out we weren't talking about the right things. I reminded her that cheating was a deal breaker for me. She knew that. She said she understood if I wanted a divorce but hoped I might give her a chance to make things right. I'm not sure if I'm being a fool, but I told her I hadn't decided yet. I made it clear that if we were going to attempt reconciliation, there would be conditions. I told her she had to cut off all contact with him. She agreed. Write down every detail of their relationship, every kiss, every trip, every time they were intimate, and if I found out she left anything out, I would leave immediately. She agreed. I also told her she had to tell our friends and family what she did. There was some hesitation, but she eventually agreed. And start individual counseling to figure out why she did this. She agreed. In the meantime, I've scheduled a meeting with a divorce lawyer next week to understand my options, because I don't want to be caught off guard again. I don't plan on telling her this. Earlier today, the guy's AP wife messaged me. She asked if I'd be willing to meet her later to talk. I agreed. My wife knows, but she isn't happy about it. And for the record, my wife knew he was married all along. Apparently, he told her that his wife had changed after they got married, was treating him badly and refused to have sex with him, and that he was planning to divorce her. I'm starting to realize this guy might have been lying the entire time just to sleep with my wife. At this point, I'm emotionally and physically drained. Part 6, I am getting a divorce. I met AP's wife, OBS, at a park. It was awkward at first, but she was grateful I had told her about the affair. She said she had been going through her husband's phone, computer, and emails and she found something. It was a sex video of him and my wife, in my bedroom. On our bed. I could only watch a few seconds of it before I had to stop. It was disgusting. OBS apologized, but I thanked her for showing it to me. Everyone in the comments was right. My wife's character is deeply flawed, and the level of disrespect she has shown me and our marriage is unforgivable. I think I already knew that on some level, but I hadn't been ready to admit it to myself. This pushed me over the edge. OBS and I talked a bit more, but out of respect for her, I won't go into the details of what she said. Suffice it to say, her husband is a lying piece of shit who fed my wife a bunch of garbage about his wife. OBS is planning to separate and divorce him, and I told her I'd be doing the same with my wife. We wished each other luck and went our separate ways. When I pulled into my driveway, a car pulled up behind me. It was AP. The fucking idiot was waiting for me. I called the police to report trespassing before getting out of the car. He got out and started yelling at me, asking why I was meeting his wife, and what I was playing at. I ignored him and started walking into my house. He followed me inside, still yelling. I don't believe in violence, but in this case, it was necessary. I kicked him out of my house with a bloody nose and possibly bruised ribs. By the time the police arrived, he was gone, but I filed a report and gave them his address. I'm planning to follow up on a restraining order with my lawyer next week. I messaged OBS to give her a heads up about what happened. She was surprised he even knew we met. She told me she hadn't told him about our meeting, and in fact, she had kicked him out of the house yesterday. I figured my wife must have told him. Conveniently, my wife wasn't home for the shit show. When she did get home, I told her she should check in on her boyfriend, as the last I saw him, he didn't look so good. I also warned her that next time, I'd break his legs. She looked shocked and confused. I told her I knew she was the one who tipped him off about my meeting with OBS. She denied it at first, but then admitted she just didn't want OBS to fill my head with lies, and hoped AP would convince her not to meet with me. And I finally saw her for the manipulative woman she was. I told her to pack her things and move into the basement. She had until tomorrow morning. We co-own the house, so I can't kick her out, but I don't want to see her. I told her to use the basement entrance from now on and only contact me about our divorce proceedings via text or email. Oh, and I told her to take the mattress with her because I'll be buying a new one for myself. She looked confused. I said, "Yeah, I know about the sex video." The look on her face was priceless. I am currently staying at my friend's place tonight. I'll be back in the morning to make sure she's moved into the basement. This marriage is over. There will be no reconciliation. I've made my decision. I'll be moving forward with the divorce, and I'm ready to start focusing on my own healing. Part 7. My soon-to-be ex-wife left to stay at her parents' house on Monday morning. I know this because when I called them later that day to tell them about her affair and our separation, they were shocked. She had only told them we had gotten into a fight, leaving out everything else. They were understandably upset, but were understanding of my decision to leave. I also told my parents and close friends, all of whom were surprised and upset, and now also angry with her. Since then, my soon-to-be ex-wife has been flooding my phone with walls of texts every day, apologizing for what she did. She keeps saying she loves me, wishing she could undo everything, and begging me not to throw away our entire relationship over what she calls a stupid mistake. Some of her friends have even reached out, saying she's spiraling and that they know she screwed up, but I should at least talk to her because of our shared history. I ended up telling a few of her friends about some of the details, like her taking AP on a trip that I had planned for the two of us. They were horrified and didn't have much to say after that. I met with my lawyer earlier this week. It was originally planned for later in the week but managed to move it up sooner to get things sorted, especially with the AP tensions. Contrary to what I had initially thought, the province I live in is a no-fault divorce location, so none of the evidence of the affair can be used to prove adultery in court. My lawyer told me that the quickest and most cost-effective route is to proceed with separation now and file for divorce in a year. While I could pursue an adultery claim to get divorced sooner, it would take just as long, if not longer, and be much more expensive. My soon-to-be ex-wife hasn't come back from her parents' house yet, so I packed her belongings and moved them to the basement. I changed the locks on the main house to make the separation more official. I have also installed a security camera system at the front entrance. Things with AP have escalated since my last update. I've been in touch with OBS throughout the week, and she told me that her husband has been behaving erratically, threatening messages, showing up at the house demanding to talk. She has taken the necessary legal action, as have I. Given the ongoing legal situation with AP, I've been advised not to share more details, so I'll leave it at that for now. In summary, she no longer feels safe in her home. Her family lives in another province and she doesn't have close friends here. They moved less than a year ago, so I offered for her to stay at my house temporarily, after clearing it with my lawyer. She's currently staying in my guest bedroom. As for how I'm doing, it still feels surreal. It's like I stepped out of my life and into someone else's. So much has happened in 1 week, and I'm still trying to process it all. My friends have been incredible and have been spending a lot of time with me since I told them everything. OBS and I have been helping each other process what's happened, but I'm a little concerned that leaning on each other like this may create more emotional complications than we realize. I don't think I've started processing what's happened yet with everything else going on, but I feel like the crash is coming. I'm starting therapy in 2 weeks. Edit. Thank you all for your advice. OBS is currently staying with me, and we both understand this arrangement is temporary. She'll return to her home once everything settles down. Some have suggested that our living situation could complicate things, potentially leading to trauma bonding or even intimacy. I won't deny that it's been comforting to have her around as she is the only one who truly understands what I'm going through. I'm not sure if this is something others experience after being cheated on, but my confidence has taken a serious hit. I can't understand what my wife saw in her AP. I don't think he's more attractive than me, so now I'm left wondering if he's better in bed. Honestly, the thought of sleeping with someone else, partly out of anger at my soon-to-be ex-wife and partly for validation, has crossed my mind more than once. I don't know how OBS feels about all this, but I'm aware I'm in a vulnerable state and will try to avoid making any impulsive decisions. As some of you pointed out, there are safety concerns for both myself and OBS. We are pursuing legal action, and in the meantime, I've installed a camera and security system and will remain vigilant. Fortunately, the layout of my house keeps the main living area entirely separate from the basement, so I don't expect any awkward encounters between my soon-to-be ex-wife and OBS when she returns from her parents' place. Part 8. My wife's been staying at her parents' place all week, and she's been sending me messages every day, trying to reel me back in. I've been reading them but staying silent, reminding myself over and over that her words are empty. The I love yous, the I'm sorries, and all the promises she's making about how she's trying to change by reading books and listening to podcasts, they mean nothing. It's been exhausting. Some days, it's taken everything in me to not give in to her manipulative tactics, but I keep reminding myself of the reality of what she did. This afternoon, she sent me a photo from when we were together. It was a selfie of us cuddling in bed, taken right after we said I love you for the first time. Her next message was, "Look how happy we were, please don't throw our relationship away over my stupid mistake." I fucking lost it. Seeing that picture felt like she was rubbing salt in the wound and she's shifting the blame onto me for ending our marriage. I responded, saying, "How dare you blame me? You were the one who threw it all away the moment you started the affair, fucked him in our bed, and took him on the trip I had planned for us. Those were all decisions you took leading to the end of our marriage." I then went down to the basement, took a photo of her belongings and mattress that I'd moved down there, and sent it to her. I told her not to bother coming to the front door when she came back because I had the locks changed. Then I blocked her. I'm fucking done. Part 9. My life has turned into a circus. After the events of the last few days, I did not want to post here anymore. But, this platform has been one of the few venting outlets for me, where I get to write and process the shit show that is currently my life. On Sunday, I called my wife's best friend. This is the same friend who has been in contact with me telling me my wife was spiraling and that I should talk to her. I told her details about the guy my wife had been having an affair with. How he came to our house, angry that I'd outed the affair to his wife. I described his violent behavior toward my wife, including how he had grabbed and shoved her, and mentioned that he was harassing his own wife. I told her that AP's wife was temporarily staying at my house because she felt unsafe at home. I stressed that I was sharing this information because I was genuinely concerned for my wife's safety. She wasn't acting like herself, and I wanted someone she trusted to keep an eye on her and ensure she wasn't in contact with her AP anymore. Her friend was shocked by what I told her and thanked me for the information, saying she would also inform her parents as well. She added that my wife wasn't talking to her AP anymore because she wanted to fix things with me. I felt relieved after that call, thinking I had done the right thing. On Monday, on my way home from work, I received a message from an unknown number that said, "I know OBS is staying at your house." I messaged OBS, and she confirmed it was her husband's number. He had sent her a similar message, along with a screenshot of an Amazon order confirmation with my address on it. OBS had forgotten to change her Amazon password. They shared a Prime account, and he must have still been logged in on his computer. I don't know how he got my number. Not long after this, my wife called me, angrily questioning why I had OBS at our house and accusing me of sleeping with her out of revenge. I asked her how she found out if she was supposedly no longer in contact with AP. She said her friend had told her. I said that OBS was only staying over because her boyfriend wouldn't stop harassing her, making her feel unsafe. My wife called me a liar and cussed out OBS. I ended the call. Shortly after I got home, AP called me, demanding to know why OBS was staying at my house. He accused me of sleeping with OBS. It was incredible to see how quickly both he and my wife had jumped to the same conclusion. I stood firm, reiterating that his issues with her are none of my business, that I was only offering her a place because of his harassment and her having nowhere else to go. The conversation began escalating. I made it clear that I wouldn't tolerate any threats or aggressive behavior from him. And, I warned him that if he showed up at my house, I would call the police and have him arrested. Later that night, I got a call from my wife's best friend. She was very angry, accusing me of lying and manipulating her. Apparently, when she talked to my wife about AP after our conversation, my wife told her that I was making it all up. That AP didn't touch her, it was actually me who shoved her out of anger for what she had done, and AP came to her defense. She also told her OBS and I have planned a revenge affair to get back at her for cheating, which is the real reason she's staying at our house right now. I told her friend if I really was this asshole my wife was making me out to be, then why has she been messaging me all week, trying to apologize and reconcile? It didn't make any sense that she would believe her. But, it appears that my wife has spun a narrative that I was emotionally unavailable over the last several months, effectively pushing her to seek comfort elsewhere and have an affair. My wife also told her that her attempts at reconciliation with me were genuine expressions of love and regret, and that my refusal to engage was just another way I was being emotionally manipulative. She said I was so cold-hearted. The only time I did respond to her messages was when I informed her that I had moved her belongings to the basement. I told her my wife was making this whole thing up, that none of it was true. But she completely bought the story, called me an asshole, and hung up on me. Yesterday, I received messages from all of my wife's friends and a few of our common couple friends, calling me a cold-hearted asshole and a POS for supposedly laying a hand on her. Only 2 of my closest childhood friends knew the whole truth, and stood by and supported me. I can't wrap my head around how she turned everyone against me. I don't know what's going on with her. This is not the woman I married. I don't know if she's having some bizarre crisis. I am so fucking depressed and left with a profound sense of loss, mainly for my marriage, and also for the friendships I thought I could count on. OBS informed me this morning that she has requested time off at work and will be traveling back to her hometown in a few days, in a different province, to stay with her family until this blows over. She feels bad for making my situation more difficult by having her stay at my place. My friend offered up his cabin overlooking a lake for me to stay at for a little while. He doesn't rent it out during the fall-winter season. Once OBS leaves, I will take a week off and spend some time alone there. Part 10. I got a no-contact order against the AP. My soon-to-be ex-wife's AP showed up at my house, banging on the door loudly, yelling, and threatening to break down my door. The neighbors started coming out to see what was going on. His voice was slurred. It was obvious he was drunk. He had driven over to my house while intoxicated. I didn't say anything. I didn't step out and I didn't engage with him. I just called the police. Police showed up. Given his drunken state, he was aggressive and non-cooperative, so they put him in handcuffs. After his arrest, I spoke to one of the officers and explained the whole situation, how he'd been harassing OBS and showing up unannounced despite her trying to cut contact. I also told them that he had been violent toward me and my ex-wife. The officers said they would be taking him in for public intoxication and harassment. Since this wasn't the first time AP had been warned, they told me that a no-contact order would be issued as part of his release conditions. He's now legally forbidden from contacting me or OBS. If he tries anything again, he'll be arrested on the spot. The entire incident was recorded by my security camera. I will add the footage to the compiled evidence I am putting together to send to all those friends who called me a piece of shit. Exposing my soon-to-be ex-wife. As many of you suggested, I have spent the last few days working to gather all the evidence I have of my soon-to-be ex-wife's manipulation, affair, her AP's harassment, and I have compiled and organized them in chronological order. What I like to call my evidence pile included the wall of text between my soon-to-be ex-wife and AP which I had saved when I first found out about them. These are especially damning because the texts also mention the things they do to avoid spouses, me and OBS, from finding out. Pictures STBX and AP sent to each other, not nudes, but definitely suggestive. Footage of the AP grabbing and shoving my wife, which I got from my neighbor's security camera. Screenshots of text between OBS and the AP, which she provided me, showing how he's been harassing her. Footage from my security camera of AP coming to my house and getting arrested. Saving the best for last, my soon-to-be ex-wife's confession. I didn't think I would be able to get a confession out of her, TBH. But I guess she felt overconfident having gotten away with her previous lying. Here's how the confession happened. My 2 best friends who have stood in my corner in spite of her lies and slander wanted to help in exposing her. We knew she wouldn't meet with me to keep up the charade, so they pretended to have severed ties with me for being violent with her. The soon-to-be ex-wife fully believed them. My 2 friends then organized a night out with several of our larger group of friends, including her, to support her during this rough time, all the while maintaining their cover of their friendship fallout with me. When they went out, and as the night progressed, my soon-to-be ex-wife had one too many drinks, as did everyone else. My friends began prodding, asking how she managed to keep the affair under wraps. She revealed that one of the women in our friend group knew about the affair the entire time. And the worst part is that this friend, who had sometimes covered for her, was there at the gathering with her husband. Her husband was completely blindsided by this, and furious, having had no idea that his wife had been helping cover up the affair. It became incredibly awkward. The husband left and his wife followed him. My soon-to-be ex-wife was really drunk and oblivious to what she had done. The rest of the group got really upset by this and left as well. My 2 friends remained and continued prodding. They asked her what she planned to do now, and if she will start dating AP publicly. She said nope, she was done with him. When friends asked why, she drunkenly admitted that AP was physically violent with her. When my friends asked why she had lied and said I was the one who attacked her, she said she was scared of AP and that he had been blackmailing her. All of this was recorded by my friends. I will note that she found out about AP's arrest at my house from a neighbor who had messaged to check in on her following the ruckus AP created the night he was arrested. My guess is she's backpedaling because of this. Also, I have no idea what he has on her to blackmail her with, if that is even true. Next, I created a text chain including her parents, my parents, our group of friends who had been shit-talking me, and sent them my evidence pile, along with the following message. I never thought I'd have to do this, but clearly, I've been giving too many people the benefit of the doubt. Since most of you had no problem jumping to conclusions and shit-talking to me, it's time to set the record straight once and for all. The attachments show everything, and most importantly proof that I never laid a hand on my wife. I have also discovered a video that my wife and her AP made while they were having sex in our home, in our marital bed. For obvious reasons, this video will not be shared. I left the group chat, blocked the numbers of all those friends. I have no interest in knowing what they have to say or if they want to apologize to me. I just wanted to clear my name and get out. I then privately messaged her this. If you ever think about pulling something like this again, I will share all of that on Facebook and sue you for defamation. Going forward, you will not contact me. If you require something pertaining to the divorce, you can reach out to my lawyer at this number. My lawyer will be forwarding the separation agreement for you to sign soon. To be honest, doing this is so out of character for me and I hate that it got to this, but she left me no choice. I had to take back control of the narrative. This may be my last update for a while, unless something unexpected happens, though I doubt it after the bombshell I just dropped. I'm currently at the cottage, taking a much-needed break, and plan to stay here for a while. I've taken a week off work to process everything that's happened, since I haven't really had the chance to do that until now. Part 11, I did something stupid. I watched the sex video. I don't know why I did it, and I wish more than anything I could unsee it. Alone with my thoughts now, the weight of what my soon-to-be ex-wife has done is crushing me. I barely eat or sleep, and to be honest, I've been drinking more than I should. I feel empty and worthless, frequently wondering why she did this to me. People say that cheating is a reflection of the cheater's character, not the one betrayed, but I can't help feeling that I must have been lacking something. Why else would she do this to me? If I had been enough, she wouldn't have done this. Why wasn't I enough? I keep thinking about her AP. What does he have that I don't? He is a massive downgrade in every way, less successful, less fit, and a complete asshole. So, what the fuck did she see in this guy? Why was he worth destroying our marriage? I don't even know what I was hoping to find when I watched the sex video of them. Maybe I thought I'd gain some insight into their relationship, or maybe I did it because I had been drinking. Whatever the reason, I regret it deeply. Until last night, I had only seen a few seconds of it when OBS shared it with me. But, last night, I watched the entire video. All 4 minutes and 52 seconds of it. The things they did, the things she did for him, the things she let him do to her. She shared a level of intimacy with him that she never gave me. I am heartbroken. Shattered. Gutted. Watching it felt like a knife to my gut. We'd had conversations before about spicing things up in the bedroom. I even shared my fantasies with her. But she didn't want anything beyond basic, traditional sex, and I respected that. I accepted it. I never brought it up again. But now, to see her doing these things with him, things she never let me touch. It's soul-crushing. I want to scream, to rage against the universe for this betrayal. I hope I never see him again, because I don't know if I will be able to stop myself from shredding him to pieces with my bare hands. I don't know how to process this, how to move on from this moment. All I know is that I'm completely devastated, and the journey ahead feels impossibly dark. To make matters worse, when I finally fell asleep, or possibly passed out from drinking, it was the early hours of the morning, and I missed my first therapy appointment today. I know I need to get a grip. I know I need to stop drinking. I'm at this cottage overlooking a beautiful lake, and instead of making the most of this time away, I'm drowning in my own misery. Part 12. The Aftermath and More Discoveries. Many of you guys wanted to know about what happened after my text with all the evidence went out. I left the chat right after and left for the cottage. Here's what went down in the aftermath, according to my 2 friends who stayed in the group chat. A few responded, saying they were absolutely disgusted and angry with my wife for what she had done. Many didn't respond or said something like, "That's messed up." The vast majority want to stay out of it. My parents are not pleased that I had aired out our dirty laundry. Only 2 of my wife's friends tried to downplay the situation, insisting that she's deeply regretful and deserves a chance to make things right. What has happened since? Watching their sex video was a mistake. I hurt myself by doing it, hit rock bottom, and engaged in risky behavior. After reading all your comments about how the drinking was making everything worse and that I should lay it off, I took that to heart, and the following day, I decided I should go dry. But just when I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. 2 nights ago, I got on a call with the husband of my wife's friend, the one who was outed during their night out last week. I found out he wanted to talk to me through one of my 2 friends, so I unblocked his number. He told me that after the night out, he confronted his wife at home. At first, she only admitted to covering up my wife's affair. He wasn't convinced, so he went digging over the next few days and found out that his wife was also cheating on him, and my wife was also covering up her friend's affair. And then the worst part of the conversation. He went through texts shared between his wife and mine, and found messages indicating that my wife had been pregnant recently. After grilling his wife about it, she finally admitted that my wife did get pregnant a few months ago. My wife told her she didn't know if it was mine or her AP's because she was having sex with both of us, so my wife wanted to get an abortion, and she helped her schedule one during a week I was away for a business trip. She also said the AP knows about the pregnancy and abortion. He was the one who took her home afterwards. Hearing this sent me into a complete spiral. Whatever shred of sanity I had left was gone. The pain I felt, and still feel, is indescribable. That's when I started drinking again. It was the darkest, most painful night of my life. I have never felt so broken, and now, I've truly hit rock bottom. This revelation cuts especially deep because of what we've been through. My wife and I were trying for a baby a few years ago. She finally got pregnant, after about a year of trying, but we lost the baby in the 2nd trimester, which was incredibly traumatic. We had started baby planning and even bought and moved into the house we currently own in preparation for our growing family. After that, we stopped actively trying and avoided planning due to stress and emotional triggers. IVF was discussed, but she didn't want to get too emotionally invested only to be let down, so we agreed to let nature take its course without using birth control. We even considered adoption or fostering as an option, but agreed to revisit the topic in a few years, once the pain wasn't so raw. In hindsight, I don't think we handled it well, as we both were happy to avoid talking about it, especially her. I mention all this because I am now wondering if the unprocessed trauma has led my wife to act in the way she did. Regardless, after what she put me through, I can never trust her again. Another update. Last night, I received a message from the AP. He signed his name, but he sent it from an unknown number. The message's contents were, "Just so you know, your wife was relieved to terminate her pregnancy because she believed it was yours. We took this photo when we celebrated afterwards." He also attached a photo of him and my wife. For the record, I don't believe anything this fucker has to say. He has proven to be vindictive and, quite frankly, a complete psycho. I believe he sent me the text just to fuck with me and rile me up, which worked. The timing he chose to message me has also not skipped my notice. It was past midnight when he sent me the message, waking me up in the process. I forgot my phone was loud, and after his text, I couldn't sleep anymore. I blocked the number and didn't respond to his message. He's not supposed to be contacting me, but I don't know how to prove this was him, given it was sent from a different number. The rage I have towards this guy is not healthy, and I don't know how to manage it without doing something I would regret or potentially ruin my life over. My current state, I am oscillating between extreme sadness, hopelessness and rage, with moments of numbness in between. Any advice on how to handle the AP is appreciated. Also, I haven't told the OBS about my wife's pregnancy and abortion, should I? Part 13. Soon-to-be ex-wife's post. I created a throwaway account for this for obvious reasons. I usually browse Reddit for different subs, but given my issue, it seemed fitting to post it in this sub. As the title reads, I, 35, cheated on my husband, 37. I cheated on him with a man I work with. I made a horrible mistake. I am very regretful and would give anything to undo it, but I can't. I know I have a lot of work I need to put in and I am not owed forgiveness, but I love my husband very much and will do anything to earn his forgiveness. My husband discovered the affair a few weeks ago. He was devastated, as can be expected, and things have been really complicated since. I left to stay with my parents for a while over a week ago. He wanted me to stay away from him in the basement. He has blocked me, so I have no way of contacting him except through his friends, who are not my biggest fans right now. In short, I desperately want to make things right with him, but I can't even talk to him. This Monday is Thanksgiving, in Canada. We had plans to go to my in-laws who are hosting us and my parents. My in-laws have graciously accepted to allow me and my parents to attend dinner as planned for the opportunity to discuss my transgressions and the ways I will make amends. To my knowledge, my husband will be present at dinner, but he does not know that I will be joining as well. I know it sounds awful, but I fear he will not come if he knew I would be there as well. I want to take the opportunity on Monday to show him that I am dedicated to making amends. I only want him to hear me out before deciding if he still wants to proceed with separation and divorce. How can I go about doing this? Part 14. I haven't been able to post updates for a while, and I wanted to explain what's been happening. Seeing the comments below my wife's post, her name and her AP's name were made public, so I will be using their real names from now on, because maintaining their anonymity has now become pointless. My wife's name is Hannah and her affair partner's name is Ryan. Thanksgiving dinner was a disaster. My parents invited Hannah and her family without consulting me. They weren't happy with my airing out our dirty laundry to our common friends and wanted us to come together to discuss our issues. Despite the post Hannah made on here, she still attended Thanksgiving dinner. I felt blindsided and furious. This was one of the only sanctuaries I had left, which was yet another thing she had taken from me. I was also angry with my parents for not respecting my need for space after everything that had happened. When I saw her walk through the door, I walked straight out, leaving no room for discussion. With my two trusted friends unavailable, one spending the holiday at his in-laws and the other out of town, I spent Thanksgiving alone at a bar, which really sucked. And following that evening, I decided to cut off my parents. Later that week, I met with the husband of Hannah's friend, the friend who discovered his wife's affair after she was outed during the group meetup. He told me he decided to reconcile with his wife, largely because they have kids together. I started therapy and returned to work to regain some semblance of normalcy. However, I still often turn to drinking to get through the rough nights. Since Thanksgiving, I hadn't heard from Hannah or Ryan. After the disturbing message from Ryan taunting me about the abortion of my child, I reported it to the police. They said they would investigate, but proving the source would be difficult due to the number of people involved, creating motive for others, and the fact that it wasn't from his number. I still have my camera and security system in place at home for protection and evidence, along with previous police reports and a peace bond, but still felt uneasy because I knew I was dealing with a mentally deranged person. When the OBS returned from visiting her parents, she had her mother come to stay with her. We'd been keeping in touch and eventually met for dinner to chat and support each other. During our conversation, I learned that her husband, Ryan, had been laid off due to fraud-related issues at work. After dinner, she came to my house to pick up evidence I had that she needed for her legal proceedings, which are more complicated due to the abuse in her marriage. We had a few glasses of wine, we shared a moment that led to a kiss and ultimately sleeping together. I hadn't anticipated this, and I was concerned about how it might affect our friendship, which I highly valued despite the shit situation it was born out of. We talked and agreed it was too soon to pursue a romantic relationship, as we were both navigating our separations, but neither of us regretted what happened. We had an unbelievable time together and both felt a mutual need for validation after what our exes had done to us. Less than a week ago, as I was leaving work and walking over to my car in an underground parking lot, I was hit by a car in a hit-and-run accident. I lost consciousness, and when I woke up, I found myself in a hospital room with Hannah and my parents by my side. Hannah was still listed as my emergency contact, which is why she was notified. I have a few broken bones, but on the whole, given the circumstances, I should consider myself to still be alive. I told Hannah that I didn't want her there and asked her to leave. She broke down, begging me to let her take care of me and show her love, but I couldn't stand the sight of her and insisted she leave me alone. Thankfully, my parents supported my wishes and asked her to give me space to recuperate. The police are investigating the hit and run. I don't remember anything from the accident and unfortunately, the security cameras were non-functional at the time. The police did manage to get the make and color of the car from nearby street cameras as it left the parking lot, but the plate number was not visible. The car's make and color matches Ryan's car. However, it's a common color and make, so it doesn't provide much to go on. The investigation is ongoing. I returned home from the hospital a few days ago. I am trying to get back into things and my parents have been a big source of help and support. The hit and run could have just been an unfortunate random hit, but I remain vigilant, just in case it was a deliberate act by Ryan. Part 15. Ryan was arrested? The night he showed up at his wife's house, breaking his restraining order, was the final unraveling of a man who had already lost everything. His world had crumbled piece by piece. He had lost everything. His wife, his job, his reputation. And now, with nothing left, he arrived at her doorstep drunk and desperate. When the police arrived, he was past reason. In his drunken hysterical state, he blamed me for the ruin of his marriage and his life and threatened to take his own life. The officers restrained and arrested him, as he slurred his admission to running me over with his car in his attempt to make me pay for ruining his life. With attempted murder added to his other charges, DUI, violation of restraining order, abuse, harassment, and assault, He was denied bail and now awaits his court hearing. Days after Ryan's arrest, Hannah's father reached out to me, asking to meet alone. I had always respected him, and despite everything that had happened, I agreed to meet him. We sat together in a small, quiet cafe. Hannah hadn't reached out since I'd asked her to leave at the hospital, but her father wanted to provide insight into her silence. He explained that he and her mother had asked her to stop contacting me, to protect me from further pain. He described how she had finally begun to comprehend the full extent of the damage she had caused, how deeply she'd hurt me by letting someone like Ryan into our lives. He acknowledged that what she had done was nearly unforgivable, yet, as her father, he understood her remorse. Hannah's remorse, he said, hadn't truly surfaced until the accident. Only then had she come to see the life-shattering consequences of her betrayal, recognizing that she had played a role in bringing unimaginable harm to me. She had confessed to her father that she would do anything to make things right. Even if that meant divorce, forfeiting her rights to the house, or leaving my life entirely. She had even used the word abuse to describe what she had done to me, which took her father by surprise, who realized it had taken this attack for her to fully accept responsibility for all the things that she had done. Her dad wanted me to be aware of this new revelation to help me make an informed decision. He asked me if I could ever find it in me to forgive Hannah and give her a second chance. I needed him to understand why reconciliation felt impossible, so I asked him if he had ever cheated on his wife, or if she had cheated on him. He said no, neither of them had. I told he could never truly understand, then, what it was like to have the person you once trusted with your life tear you apart and betray you. I went on to recount everything Hannah had done, each betrayal that she had chosen, step by step. She'd had countless opportunities to stop the affair, and she hadn't. Even after I'd found out, she continued to protect Ryan, even lying that I had assaulted her to save him, when in fact he had hurt her. And worst of all, she had killed our baby. A child that could have been mine. She had deliberately chosen to dismantle my life, one piece at a time, seemingly without remorse. Then I asked him, pointedly, if his wife had done all of this to him, would he be able to take her back? He said no, he wouldn't. And he understood why I could never take Hannah back. Before he left, he thanked me for meeting him and assured me he would never tell Hannah that we'd spoken. Since the accident, even my own parents had stopped urging me to consider reconciliation. They too had come to grasp the enormity of what she'd done and the danger she had exposed me to by bringing Ryan into our lives. The OBS is doing all right, all things considered. Her mom is still staying with her while she awaits the court proceedings. Given Ryan's criminal charges, her lawyer is confident about expediting her divorce, bypassing the usual year-long separation required. She plans to move back to her hometown to be near her family. As for me, I am in contact with my lawyer. Everything is going according to plan and I am relieved to learn that Hannah would not contest the divorce. I can now focus on rebuilding my life. Epilogue. 5 years later. Hannah stayed true to her word and never reached out to me again. We finalized the divorce just over a year after our separation. The last time I visited my parents, they mentioned they'd run into Hannah's parents at an event. They told me she had moved back in with her family shortly after the divorce and had since been helping care for her father, who is very ill. They said she was a completely changed person now, attending therapy and making efforts to improve. But despite her efforts, she hadn't managed to sustain a relationship. She'd had a few casual dates, but they'd ended as soon as she revealed the reason for her divorce. Eventually, she stopped trying and joined a support group for people working through marriages impacted by infidelity. Ryan, meanwhile, was convicted on multiple charges, including abuse, DUI, violation of a restraining order, and attempted murder. He was sentenced to prison. Our friend group had also unraveled once the truth about the multiple affairs came to light. I haven't spoken to any of them in years, except for my two best friends, who stood by me throughout. Recently, I caught up with the guy who had learned of his wife's infidelity after Hannah exposed her. He'd tried to reconcile for their kid's sake, but he was always on edge, never fully trusting her. Eventually, he discovered she'd started another affair. He ended things immediately and is now navigating his own separation, divorce, and custody battle. As for me, recovery didn't come easily. I was absolutely destroyed and devastated after everything that had happened, and had to build my life all over again, piece by piece. I struggled with alcohol for a while, consumed by the devastation of my broken marriage. I leaned heavily on my friends and family, started attending AA, and stuck with therapy. After months of hard work, tears, anger, and dismantling my distrust in people, the soul-crushing pain began to lift. One day, I received an ad in the mail for an event and felt an urge to check it out, rather than just toss it in the trash. It seemed insignificant, but that small moment was when I realized I would be okay. An incredible job opportunity soon came up in a different province, which I accepted. It felt like the fresh start I needed, and as it happened, it was the same province where the OBS lived. After I moved, we reconnected, and with our shared history, it wasn't long before we started dating. With her, it felt different and so much better, right off the bat. She and I connected on every level, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Our connection went beyond our shared past trauma. The difference between this relationship and my previous one was night and day. We trust each other and neither one of us worries about the other stepping out of the relationship. We fell hard for each other. We got married a year ago and last month we welcomed our first baby. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give a like, share it with someone, and subscribe for more stories that inspire, provoke, and connect us. Thank you.